Yeah, so welcome back. I'll present this. Hope it's now visible.
Yeah.
Okay, so welcome back. I think we can carry on with JavaScript. Maybe I can just give a small intro of what we did last. I think we discussed JavaScript and how it can be used, how you can integrate it into our files. Either you can use it as inline JavaScript or you can use an external document. Then we saw how we can output JavaScript. We can use the console. We can use the alert. We can use the win document to try it, and so many other things. Then we also looked at I want to believe data types in JavaScript, and specifically we were discussing primitive data types, that is numbers. Just hold on a minute.
Specifically what I said. There you go. SP check recruitment applicant, recruitment applicant.
Like so, anyway, I can just run all of them.
Yeah, recommend.
And
Okay, just hold on a second.
okay.
Nikinini itarecord.
Okay, run the record. Sawa, basi endelea. Sasa na
Not really. Okay, so as I was saying, we're just catching up on what we discussed, and we were at primitive data types. So on data types, we said we have numbers, we have string, we have boolean, and we also have undefined and null. And I think that's where we left off our discussion at, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's what we did last. So today, I want us to look at two things. There are two major topics. One of them is operators, then the other one is functions. So we'll begin with operators. And operators are basically the things that help us to be able to work with JavaScript variables. Maybe something like adding two numbers or something of that sort. So that's basically what an operator is. An operation that can be performed on an operand. An operand is a variable. Then we have variables and operators. Then we end up with our results. So today I want us to look at these seven operators. Yeah, I think we'll look at seven operators and then we'll see how they work. So now that know what operators are, as I explain deeper, you'll get to understand further what they mean. All right. So I'll just close these windows. Don't need them. So I'll open Visual Studio Code. Then I'll open our app, the one that we are working with. I don't know if we present. It's been a while since we had a class, so probably it won't be a part of the reason. But okay, yeah, I think we can work with this. So we can do a new file and call it JS operators dot HTML. Okay.
Yeah.
So what you're going to do here, and I don't know why my machine becomes very slow when I am presenting, but nonetheless, I think we'll just work with it like that. So here we'll talk about JavaScript operators. So in JavaScript, we have a lot of operators. I'll begin with the assignment operators. So number one is assignment operators. So assignment operators are the operators that we use for assigning values to variables. We said we have three ways of declaring variables. We have let, const, and var, right?
Yeah.
So we can use any of these three keywords to define our variables. So let me assume we want to define a variable called pi. So I can say there's a constant called pi. And what value do I want to give pi? So literally, I'll need to script this. So I have a constant here called pi. What value do I give to pi? I'll use an assignment operator. So equal to sign is one of the examples of assignment operators. Okay, so I'll say pi is 3.142, something like that. Okay, then if I want to calculate circumference of a circle, I'll simply say another diameter is equals to maybe say 24. Then circumference would be pi r squared, isn't it? So it is pi multiplied by diameter over 2 because that is radius, isn't it? Then you square
Yeah.
this one like that. So I can console that log c. That should give me the circumference of that circle. So what I'll do is I'll run this and I'll place them side by side. Then when I come here and I go to inspect and I come to my console, it tells me that pi is not defined. So I use pi and not pie like that. So it's telling me console, console. It's console. So you can see it is 4. So 3.142 divided by, this is not 12 but 2. 2. So that will be the circumference of the circle pi r squared. So it is pi, which is 3.14 times 12 divided by 24 divided by 2 is 12. 12 squared is 24. 24 times 3.14 is 39. Okay, so
Yeah.
this is, and these ones here are examples of assignment operator. So I'm using equal to sign here as an assignment operator. All right.
Yeah.
Now, another example of how we can use the segment operators is, let me say I have another something like const full name equals to Richard, for example. So I'm giving a string literal here. Then I'll simply say um, I have to use left because I need to declare this. I need to reset the value. So I can simply say here full name um, plus equals Nyango. Then here I can come and console dot log full name. So that should read Richard Onyango as you can see over here. So you can see this plus equal to sign. It means that full name is equal to full name plus Onyango like that. So now you can see it is. Now, whatever full name was, then you add this other string over here. So that's just examples of how assignment operators work. You use them to assign values to a variable. Okay. So in
Yeah.
this case, I'm using this equal to sign to take this value and assign to the variable. Take this value and assign to a variable. Take this value that's calculated assigning to this variable and so forth and so forth. Okay? Is that clear?
Yeah.
So that's assignment operator. Now the other arithmetic that we have is arithmetic operators. Arithmetic operators. So arithmetic operators are those operators that help us in performing arithmetic operations. I've just used an example here. Okay? So in
Yeah.
arithmetic operators, we have addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, and modulus. I think the only one that I've never had here probably is just modulus. Eh?
Yeah.
So the others do exactly what they are. So let's say, for example, I have two variables, and I'm going to use static variables in this example just to explain how this works out. Okay. Then, of course, as we are writing our project, we are going to use principle in everything we are saying. Okay.
Yeah.
I hope
Yeah.
this was recording. Yeah, this is recording. So let me say here I have um, let me say I have a first number. So constant number one is equals to, let me say 45. Then number two is equals to 23. Then now I can have my answer is equals to 0. So by default, my answer is equals to 0. So let's work with these arithmetic operators and see what they do. So here I put 47. There's a good reason why. So here what I can simply say is answer is equals to num1 plus num2, right?
Yeah.
So what it will do is it will just output 37 plus 43, which in this case will give me 7, isn't it? So I'll
Yeah.
say console.log answer. So you can see now that gives me 70. Okay?
Yeah.
Now if I want to go ahead and subtract the two numbers, I'll simply say answer is equals to num1 minus num2. Then I console.log. I should get the reverse of that which is 24. So if I take 47 and subtract 23, I'll get 24.
Before.
Okay?
Yeah.
Then replication, the same thing. So I can simply say answer is equals 1 times. So multiplication you use times the asterisk. Okay? You don't use x because x is a string. And 1 times 2, then I can console.log answer. So you can see that is going to give me 1081 if I multiply those two numbers. What if I divide them? So I divide use that slash. Okay.
Yeah.
Then here I can console.log answer. So if I divide, you're going to get 2.043. Now, the only one that as I was mentioning, you've probably never heard about is modulus. And modulus means when you divide a number by another number, the remainder of what cannot be divisible by that number. So, for example, if I take 23, if I take 47 and divide by 23, I'll get 2 because 2 times 23 is 46, but there'll be a remainder 1, right? Are you together?
Yes.
So that remainder is what modulus does. So if I want to know what is going to remain after I divide one number by the other, then I use the modulus operator. So here I can simply say my answer is equals to num1 modulus num2. Then I can simply say here console.log answer. So you can see it is 1. But if this number was 46, it will actually be 0 because 23 divided by 46 is 2 remainder 0. That's what we
Yeah.
have to put in here. Okay?
Yeah.
So that is arithmetic operators. Now, arithmetic operators can be used in conjunction with assignment operators. So for example, here I can simply say new answer plus equals answer. Okay? So I don't have new answer here, but I can declare it as a constant. Now that's going to be a problem, so let me use let. And there's a problem because I don't have this value in advance. So what I can do is let it, then I can simply say, so I can let it to be 0 to initialize it. Then I can say new answer is equals to new answer plus. answer. So why is it not? Tell me.
We put an A.
It's new answer. Yeah. So here I can now come and say console.log new answer. So I'm getting 0. Why is that? Because this answer is 0, and this answer here was probably also 0. Okay. So if I
Yeah.
remove this answer, if I remove this value, probably I'll get a number here. So it was 2. So if you divide these two numbers, you get 2. 2 plus 0 is 2. So that's why they are 2 in total. Okay? Now,
Yeah.
this is very basic. I'm just trying to show you how we can be able to use a combination of assignment operators, which is equal to sign, and arithmetic operators to come to perform two operations into one operation. Okay? So if I
Yeah.
wanted to square the answer, I can simply say answer. If I want to square new answer, I'll say new answer times equals new answer. So that will square the number. New answer, new. So you can see I've 2, then I've squared it, then it becomes now 4.
4.
Okay? So we can
Yeah.
use the arithmetic operators in conjunction with the assignment operators to come up with a new set of assignment operators. So all of them would be able to work out. So most of the time you'll find some programmers write these things like this. That's exactly what they're trying to achieve. Okay?
Mm.
Any question?
No.
You want to try that out or I just continue?
Let's
'Cause
continue.
I just continue, huh?
Yeah.
Okay, so now besides arithmetic, we also have what we call logical. Yeah, logical operators. These ones are just three. So these ones are used to test if more than one condition returns true or false. Okay? When you have two conditions and each condition is returning true or false, then these logical operators are used to test whether multiple conditions will return a logical value that is either true or false. Let me give you a classic example. I can ask if you are a boy and you're less than 21, or if you are a girl and you're above 21. You see, there are two conditions there, the gender and the age, and we check both of them. Okay?
Yeah.
So that's how logical operators work. And sometimes we use if for them. So let's say you are only allowed to smoke if you are above 18 years and a boy, or if you're above 21 years and also a girl. So in logical operators, we have three of them. There is and, there is or, and there is not. Those are the only three things that you can add as far as logical operators concerned. Add all values must be true, or either of the values can be true, then not neither of the values is true. Okay?
Yes.
Yes. So let's look at a classic example and how we can implement these classic examples with such. So let's say we want to allow you to perform a course or do a course, and the course is going to be based on your mini grade and your cluster points. So here I can have a course of mini grade, which is say A, B plus, something like that. Then we have another one called cluster points. So these cluster points, sorry, will be in the numbers, maybe say 40 and above, something of the sort. So we always say if you have a B plus and your cluster point is above 49, then you can do a medical course. Okay, so that's how that kind of like works out. So what I'll do here is I'll say if I'm going to look at how this if works later on. I'll say mean grade is equals to So this is a comparison operator also. So remember the comparison operators, we have not done them, but this is an example of a comparison operator. You want to compare mean grade and a value here. So if mean grade is above B, then I can come here and it's written with the ampersand two of them like that. Okay? If mean grade is B and cluster points is above 45, then what you can do is console.log qualified. Qualified. Then I also need to check something else. I also need to check if the if the two conditions are okay. Then otherwise I'll just tell you sorry, you're not qualified. Sorry, you are not qualified. Q. Not. So what will happen is, so you can see this one is qualified because they have a B plus and the cluster point is 49. So we said so long as you have a B plus and the cluster points are above 45, then you qualify. But if I had something here like 40, you'll observe here that this person has actually console E. Sorry. So you can see this person is not qualified. Okay?
Yeah.
So that's logical operator. But if I want to check either, then instead of and I'll use or. Or is the double pipe symbol like that. So if your min grade is B plus or your cluster point is above 45, then you are qualified. So it does not restrict any single condition but the two of them. Are we together?
Yeah.
So that is how logical operators work. Okay?
Yeah.
Then we also have what we call comparison operators. Comparison operators are those ones that are used to check if values are similar or if one is greater than the other. Okay?
Yeah.
So examples of comparison operators are equal to, triple equal to, not equal to, greater than, greater than or equal to. Then we also have less than, then less than or equal to. Sorry. Greater than or equal to. Then you have less than, then less than or equal to. Yeah, so those are examples of comparison operators. So they just compare two values, they just compare values and check if they're the same. So what I can do here is I can say const fname equals Robert and mname let me use mname is equals Robert. Are these names the same?
No.
They aren't, yeah?
Yeah.
So what did I know? That's okay. So they're not the same. So if I try and say uh, console.log, because what will happen is they'll either return true or false. Okay?
Yeah.
So I can say console fname is equals to m name like that. So console.log. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to output this console.log fname so you can see that is false because this name and this name are not the same. But if I say Robert, then instead it becomes true.
True.
Okay?
Yeah.
So when it comes to comparison operators, you're checking for either true or false, but you could be comparing things like names, numbers, dates, and so forth and so forth.
Okay, okay.
So what I want you to do is for just a task in this class, I want to take you to take two numbers. Maybe say num1 is equals to 30 and num2 is equals to 70. Then perform these operations and return for me whether they are returning true or false. Okay?
Yeah.
I'll give you 5 minutes for that. Then I can give you a solution.
I said I
I'm saying
yeah.
I've given two values, num1 and num2.
Yeah.
I want you to use the comparison operators to tell me whether, depending on these comparison operators, what returns true and what returns false.
Okay.
Okay?
Yeah.
Nikistop namba tano.
So
Ama hata tatu. Depending on how many times you stop.
stop hema na shamba fresh. So stop screen recording and extract hizo stop procedure kutoka za application zote na kazi inakwama kuna stop procedure nyingine anatumia side to check recruitment requisition applicant ni kama hizo ukuzi kama katika
Just read them afresh.
Yeah. Sorry to Okay.
Any success?
I'm finishing right now.
Okay.
Uh, false.
Which one is returning false? All of them or just one of them? Because there are five.
Yeah,
There is this one. There is this one. At least this one should return true because they're not equal. This one should also return true depending on which number you put first or last. So it will depend on which numbers you put first or last.
yeah,
Yes, so but you can see the whole idea is we want to compare if two things are the same. Okay?
yeah,
Now what would happen if you compare two names like this one? It will also return true. So these comparison operators will work on both string data types and number data types. That's the point that I wanted to drive.
yeah.
So let's look at now what we call string operators. Now, string operators are the ones that help us to convert a string. Okay, so
Yeah.
there's a variable somewhere here. Where, where is it? I'm trying to assign a constant to a variable, line number 54. I think here. Um, which one is variable number? So I had already declared num1 up here, num2, so I cannot redeclare them. That's why this code here will not work. So sometimes it's good to know why your code is not working. Okay.
Yeah.
That's all about the variable scope that we were talking about now. String operators. So string operators will help us to work with strings. So for example, I want to get some characters from a string. I want to convert it to uppercase. I want to convert it to lowercase. I want to, count how many characters is making it up, and so forth and so forth. Those are examples of what we call string operators. Okay.
Yeah.
So, for example, let's say, for example, I want to count how many characters make up a string. So I can have here, this is my first name. So I can simply say console.log. Then I say first name dot length. That should be able to calculate to get me how many characters make up that name. So you can see first name. It's actually not first name, it is F name. So when I do F name, you see it tells me that there are six F account are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So R is made up of 6. So if I put here an O, they should go ahead to be 7, as you can see. Okay? So this length, and it doesn't work on string only, it can even work on numbers or array elements. So it is applicable for both types of data. But again, since we're talking about string operators, then we can use it in that regard. Okay? So we have the length, which reflects for you how many characters make up a string. Okay?
Yeah.
Then if I wanted to extract the first letter of the noun word name only, I'll simply say console.log. Then I'll say string.
It's lagging.
Yeah, I forgot an E.
Can you repeat? It was lagging.
Oh, it was lagging. So I'm saying, say for example, if I wanted to convert this string to uppercase, how do I do it? So if I want to convert this name to uppercase, I can simply say here console.log. Then I will convert this to uppercase. So I'll say first name dot to uppercase. Uh, it's not first but F name. I don't know why I'm concerned with F name. So I think it's upper double P. So you can see it's converted it to uppercase. Likewise, if I wanted to convert it to lowercase, I'll do the same. All right.
Yeah.
Console.log fname fname dot to lowercase. Okay?
Yeah.
And it converts to lowercase. So maybe say I'm dealing with things like an email address, and I know that all email addresses are in lowercase, isn't it? So
Yeah.
whatever somebody types, I want to convert it directly into lowercase or something of the sort. Okay?
Yeah.
And you can do a host of all other things, like, for example, if I wanted to get of the the first letter of the name, so I can simply say here, um, console.log. Then I'll simply say fname dot splice. Then I'll specify one character, one character. Uh, fname, well, I can't splice it as an array, so what I could do is left. Then I'll say one character. I don't know if this will work out. Well, I think this might not work out in JavaScript. So probably maybe we can use a neat function to be able to get. So this might not work in JavaScript. So I might need to write my own user-defined function that can actually achieve this. Now the other would be if I have maybe say spaces in the name like that. Okay. And I wanted to display the name without spaces. So you see, if I calculate, if I was to output this name, it will have the spaces. So you can see there's a space here and there's a space here. Okay. So if I wanted to get rid of the spaces, I'll do something like console.log. Then I'll say name dot trim. So when I say trim like that, it now removes the space. So you can say I have Roberto and there are no spaces left or right. Okay. So trim will allow me to remove any leading or trailing spaces. So these are examples of what we refer to as string operators. They are operators that we apply on the string to be able to either modify it or change its content. Okay?
Yeah.
Then besides that, we also have type operator. Type operator are the ones that are used to define for us. They check for us the type of data that we are working with. So say for example, I can say let names is equals to a blank array. So here I can say console.log, then I say type of names. So you can see that becomes an object, okay? But if I say here Richard, then that becomes a string, okay?
Yeah.
If I put something like 560, that becomes a number. And finally, if I put here something like true, it becomes a boolean. Otherwise, if I don't specify anything, it becomes undefined. And if I give it a null value, then it also becomes null. So type of will give you the type of data that we are dealing with. Okay?
Yeah.
So it's also an operator that can be used. Then finally, we have another operator called ternary operator. So this was number 6. Then you have number 7, ternary operator. Now, ternary operator is where we execute a value based on whether a condition is true or false. Say, for example, if age is 18, allowed to drink is true. Otherwise, if age is less than 18, allowed to drink becomes false, isn't it?
Yeah.
So I can declare here allowed to drink will be equals to, then I'll put to drink will be equal to, now I'm putting a ternary operator here. So ternary operator has three parts: condition, value if true, and value if false. So the condition would be age is greater than 18. Then I'll put a question mark. The true value, it will be true. Otherwise, the false value will be false. So here, what I can do here, I can simply say const age is equals to 17. Then here I can console.log, console.log, Then I can say allow to drink like that. So allowed to drink, you can see this one is false because the age is 17. And if the age is less than 18, then the value becomes false. You see that?
Yeah.
Yes, so ternary patterns are very powerful. So when you're writing when we are writing out our conditions, they play a very important role in that. So this one is like writing a complicated if else statement, but just with a simple ternary operator.
Yeah.
So those are the JavaScript operators that we have. I know we have bitwise operator, but I'll skip it for now because I have not seen a very practical use for it in my career as a developer. But it is there as a JavaScript operator. But these other ones that I've shown us today, these ones are very, very common and they're very powerful in terms of us writing our application. So we have assignment operators, we have arithmetic operators, we have logical operators, we have comparison operators, we have string operators, type of operators, and ternary operator. Okay,
Yeah.
is that clear?
Yes.
Yeah, so those ones are going to be very, very useful as we are going on about with our work. These operators are going to come in very, very handy. It will depend on whatever it is that we want to achieve at a particular time. All right.
Yeah.
So that is operators. So now I want us to switch gears and look at functions. Okay.
Yeah.
So functions are reusable code blocks that help us to perform repetitive tasks. So sometimes you have something that is very repetitive, like you want to add two numbers, and probably maybe the two numbers can be different at any given point. So it doesn't mean that every time you want to add the numbers, you have to rewrite a new function. You have to write the formula all over again. Okay, so you can actually write a function that you just call the function, then you reuse it over and over again. Okay. Now, first
Yeah.
and foremost, I'll show us the different types of functions we have in JavaScript. Then we can see how to write them. Or rather, I'll pick one function that and I'll explain what they do. So functions can have parameters or not. Then also functions can return values or not. So while you're writing a function, it is going to be reusable, which means going to perform some repetitive task over and over again. You can input some parameters to the functions, or it can be blank, and it might return a value, or it may not return a value. So a classic example is when, say, for example, you want to send an email. So when I'm writing a function to send an email, I need to specify the recipient of that email, the subject, and the message that I want to send over, isn't it? But if I want to check if my files have viruses, then I don't need to pass the files. I can go through my drive and pick one file at a time, scanning them for viruses. So you can see all of them are going to be functions, only that one will require an input variable, the other one will not require an input variable. At the same time, a function can return value or not. So if I want to just scan my disk drive, I just scan my disk drive and check for errors and fix those errors. I might not return any value. But if I'm calculating VAT, then I'll calculate VAT, then it give me the new value, the value of VAT that has been calculated. That's the example of how you can return a value or not. So as we are writing our functions, we also need to keep that in mind. Okay?
Yes.
So with that in mind, let's see how to write a function. Now, there are so many ways you can write functions. Let me say I want to, first of all, write a function um, that, that does not accept values. It does its work, then probably maybe it gives me results or not. So let me start with one that does not require any variables but gives us an output. Say for example, getting the current time. Okay.
Yes.
So to get the current time, I write a function. So you start with the word function like that, and this is a function declaration, by the way. So function get time. I don't need to give it anything, but I can put it like that. So I have a function called getTime. Does not require any parameters, but then what it executes is here. So what I can console log, I can declare a variable here const date equals new date. This will give me the current date, and I can simply output it, isn't it?
Yeah.
Console.log date. So now I have just declared this function. I have not invoked it. So if I write a function and I don't invoke it, nothing happens. So as you can see on my console, there is nothing happening. Okay? But
Yeah.
if I come here and call the function get time like that, I can have now my console here showing the date and time. Okay?
Yeah.
So that's an example of a function that does not have any parameter and also does not return anything. Okay, so what it
Yeah.
does is it's just called no parameters. It does not return anything, but then it does whatever it's supposed to do. In this particular case, it will define the date based on the current date, then it will output that date on the console, which is what it has done. So I can call get time every other time. Here I can say get time, and it will still be able to get time here, and I can repeat that process over and over again. Okay.
Yes.
So that's why we say it's a reusable code block which performs some repetitive tasks. Now, what if I wanted another function that now returns a value? So maybe I give it my name and then it gives me, hello Richard, how are you? Something of the sort, right? So
Yeah.
I can have a function here that says greeting or greet. Greet will accept my name. So once you give it your name, then you can tell it return hello. Then I use a string concatenator, which is your name. In JavaScript, it's a plus, sorry. Then I can put how are you, isn't it?
Yeah.
What it will do is it will take this name, then it will form this string and return a complete string. So when I want to call the function, like I can simply say my greeting equals greet, then I say Richard. It means that it's going to execute and the value is going to be stored inside this variable because it is going to be returned. Okay? So I can simply say console.log here. Then I say my greeting. So I should be able to say, hello Richard, how are you today? Because now that value is stored inside this greeting. So it means that this greet will pick a variable called Richard and it will return this string based on whatever I have typed inside it. Are we together?
Yes.
Now it's also possible that you can put a default value to your variable. So sometimes I can put here name here equals Onyango like that. So it means that in the event that I don't pass my name, then it uses Onyango. So you can still see it says, say here, hello Richard, how are you doing? But in the event that I don't put Richard and I've given it a default value, let's see what it does. So you can see now it says, hello Onyango.
Yeah.
So it will use a default value that I provided. Okay. So
Yeah.
when accelerating a function, sometimes you require the function to accept parameters. Sometimes you can require to accept parameters, but you can provide default values for those parameters. Okay. So if you
Yes.
provide the default value, then it will use the default value. So it means that if I'm computing VAT, I'll simply say the VAT rate is 16%, unless otherwise somebody specifies the VAT rate, then I can use the other variable that the user has specified. Okay.
Yes.
So up to that, that is clear, right?
Yes.
Now, this is an example. These ones rather here are examples of we are calling what we are calling um, uh, function declaration. Function declaration means that I have declared this function as a name. The good thing with function declaration, you can see I can use it before I even define it. Okay, so it means that it is hoisted. So types of functions. Now that you know what they are, types of functions. So we have one function declaration, and this is the most common way we deal with functions anyway. So function declaration is like what I've done here. Function, then I declare the function, then I give it what to do, regardless of whether it returns value or not. Similar here, function, then I give the function a name, I give it parameters, then I tell it what to do. So that's actually defined as function declaration. The advantage is that it is hoisted. Hoisted means that it can be used before it is declared. So in a practical case over here, I have used this function before I declared it, and it just works out fine. Okay.
Yes.
Now I can even call this one up here, and you'll see it just works fine.
Okay.
No problem at all. It is hoisted, which means you can't be able to use it before it is declared, and that's a good thing. Okay. And I
Yeah.
love them for that. Okay.
Yes.
Now the other one is what we call a function expression. So you can also declare a function as a function expression. So how does a function expression look like? So I'll declare a function here as a greeting const. Maybe say hello world. Then I'll give it a function name like that. Okay. So here I'll simply say I can give it a name here, my name. Then I can simply say here, I can simply say here console.log. Um, I can simply say here hello world. Then I put the name, something of that sort. So how do I use this function? Similar to what I was using before, I simply say hello world, then I put name here, Robert Redford. Okay. How you call them won't matter. The calling is exactly the same thing. So you can see it says hello world, Robert Redford. But here I'm declaring this as a variable. Now, this one cannot be hoisted, which means I cannot use hello world before I declare it. I can't do something like that. So you can see it tells me hello world has not been initialized. Okay. So when I do function expression, I can't be able to use that function before I define it. But
Yeah.
when it is a functional declaration, then I can use it is hoisted, which means I can use it before declaring. So this one is not hoisted. Are you together?
Yeah.
So I'm just trying to show you the different ways so that sometimes when you end up in errors, you are able to tell exactly how it's going. Okay?
Yeah.
Just a second, I respond to somebody here.
Okay. Okay.
So that is the second type of function, that is function expression. So function expression, you have to first of all declare the function just like a variable before you actually use it, something like that. So they follow each other like that. Okay. Now the third type of function we have is what we call an arrow function. So arrow function can either be a function declaration or function expression. But how we write it is a bit different because this is what we call it has the ES6 syntax. ES6 is the new version of JavaScript, which is ECMAScript version 6. So the arrow function will just take the ES6 syntax. The only problem with arrow functions is they don't have access to this object. So when we are going to be using when you're going to be using what do you call when you're going to be using objects, then you cannot access this using the arrow functions. Okay, but let me write this one as an arrow function. So I'll write this portion here as an arrow function. So this is what it's going to look like. I'll say here function greet. Actually, no. Let me use this slow one. Let me use this slow one. So I'll simply say here const hello world. I'll mask this. So instead of saying function, I'll use the brackets, then that. It's called a fat arrow. So I'll use this fat arrow. Okay? So instead of saying function, then my name, so I use fat arrow here. My my name. So you see I'm missing the function word and I've added this fat arrow instead of just normal bracket first of all. So that's the syntax of another function. Then I can repeat the same thing that I was trying to say, which is this. And it will do more or less the exact same thing. Okay, so that is an arrow function. So it's just like declaring a normal function expression but remove the function keyword, and now of course replace it with a fat arrow. This is called a fat arrow. Okay,
yeah,
it's used mainly for callback functions, so it's mainly for callback functions. And it's a shorter syntax. So that's basically what it is. It's used for callback functions. So when you have a callback, you can use an arrow function, and again, it has a shorter syntax as you can see over here. Okay. Now, the other type of function that we have in JavaScript, the other way you can define a function is what we call an anonymous function, and these are very very common. Anonymous functions. Now, everything in JavaScript is almost an anonymous function because when you want to perform this operation, then then uh, then you most probably use the anonymous function. Let me give you an example. When this page loads, I want the computer to wait for 5 seconds. Then it outputs my name on the screen over here in H1, something of the sort, right? So I want the page to load. I want to wait for 5 seconds. Then after 5 seconds, I want to execute something like maybe display my name on the screen or something of the sort, right? So how I would achieve that is using something like the set timeout function, set timeout function like that. Then on this set timeout function, I will need to give it an anonymous function. So I can give it an anonymous function here, and I'll tell it execute this function. So whatever function func is part the function, so it should be here. So it's going to execute this function. Okay. Then this function will simply say document dot write hello world after 5 seconds. Okay. Then I'll need to give it how long to wait before it executes. So I'm going to give it 5,000, which means once this page loads, it's going to wait for 5 seconds, then it's going to output that value. So 5 seconds, and you can see it outputs hello world. So it means that this function here is what we are referring to as an anonymous function. It's anonymous, it doesn't have a name, it's just something that we use there to be able to perform some tasks. Okay. Another classic example is if I had something like a button here, then I clicked on that button, I'll probably use an anonymous function for the same. So anonymous functions, and let me just show you that practically. So let me just come on this page over here, inside the body. Then I'll put a button here. with an ID of save. Then so let me do that. So I have save. So when I click on this save, I want to perform some action and then something happens. Of course, I know the text is going to appear here after 5 seconds, which is not nice. So I just mask that so that my script remains intact like that. So now, when I click on this button, I want something to happen, right? I want it maybe to display a message. So what I'll do here, I'll declare something like a variable. I'll declare a constant, my button, equals. We are going to do this in detail later. So I'll say document dot query selector. Then I'll pick something with an ID of save. Now what I'll do is I'll say my button dot add event listener. Then when you click on that button, I'm going to execute this callback function. So you can see again, this is an anonymous function. So in this particular case, I'm just going to say, yes, I'll put a simple message like alert, hello, hello from button clicked, something of the sort. So again, you can see I'm just saying I'm declaring a button and I'm getting it based on the ID of save, which is what we have given it as an ID. Then after doing that, we're saving it to a variable, and then we're saying that variable add an event listener, and when somebody clicks on it, run this anonymous function. The whole point is I'm just trying to explain what anonymous functions are. Okay, so if I try that and I click on save, you see it tells me hello from button clicked and so forth and so forth. So that is another way of how you can be able to use functions. Now, we also have what we call immediately invoked functions, which I am not a very big fan of. So I will leave it at that. But what's important is for us to be able to understand how functions work. What are they? How do we declare them? They can have input variables or parameters, or they might not have, or they might have the input variables and they have default values. They can return a value or they might not return a value. Then they can take different shapes and types. So it can either be a function declaration, it can be a function expression, it can be an arrow function, or it can be an anonymous function. I want you to be able to understand all that concept because moving forward, we are going to be mixing and matching these specific concepts. Okay?
Yeah.
Is that clear?
Yes.
Yes, so I think I'll take a break at that. You can go back and review whatever we've learned today. That is the operators and what they do, the various categories. I think I discussed 7 categories: assignment, arithmetic, logical, comparison, string, ternary, and even type of operator. Not the type of we don't use so much, but ternary, string, comparison, logical, arithmetic, and assignment are the ones that we use the most. So just understand how they work, and I've also said that arithmetic and assignment operators can be combined, and I think I gave examples of that. Then we also looked at the logical ones. Logic is very important because as we're writing our code, we're going to be writing a lot of conditions, and they're going to be based mostly on the logical operators. Actually, logical and comparison operators are going to play a very big role when it comes to writing our program logic. Okay?
Yes.
Logic is how the program works. I mean, what conditions am I looking at? Then, if those conditions are true, then what do I need to do? Right? So,
Yeah.
most programs are based on that. So, I just want you to take your time and look at how that works out, try to understand it. Then, now moving forward, when you start looking at tomorrow, we'll start looking at control structures. Then, we'll see how control structures help us in being able to now control how the program flows.
Okay.
Okay?
Yeah.
Any question up to that point?
I'll just watch the video and then if I have a problem, we look at it tomorrow.
No problem at all.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you and have a rest. Wonderful living that is.
You too.
Okay, I'll share this video in a short while.
Okay.